All right, good afternoon, everyone. It's 3 p.m., and we are delighted to welcome you all to another insightful session on connecting the dots. First and foremost, our heartfelt thanks to our esteemed speakers for joining us today and contributing their valuable perspective on this panel discussion. Mr. Ajay Singh, Chief Supply Chain Officer at Hindustan Platinum Private Limited, Mr. Vishal Madan, Vice President, Head of Engineering and Information Security at IMOCA, Mr. Prakash Ramaya, Head Internal Audit at Varthana, Mr. Danish Sheikh, HR Center of Excellence, ACG Capsules, and Mr. Vivekanand Kaduguntla, Learning Lead at PEGA. We are truly honored to have such accomplished leaders with us, bringing their expertise and insights to this discussion. Mr. Danish is unable to join us due to an unexpected official meeting he had to attend. To know more about our speakers, you may follow them on LinkedIn. The link has been shared in the chat window. Now, on behalf of HRAI, I also extend a warm welcome to our participants to this session on the impactful topic reality check. Are some employees getting left behind? For more information about HRAI and upcoming events, please visit the link shared in the chat window. It's now my pleasure to introduce today's moderator, Mr. Vivek, who will be leading today's discussion with his deep insights and expertise. With that, I hand it over to you, Mr. Vivek.
Thank you, Faisal. Thank you very much for kicking us off this webinar. And thanks to HRAI for coordinating these sessions and bringing a lot of these insights to all these interested participants. My name is Vivek. I'm the learning lead at PEGA and an alumnus of ISB as well, with more than 2 decades of experience. Uh, I'm enjoying this role, and I'm also looking forward to moderating this discussion today for a very insightful overview and details about how employees are dealing with the remote work and how organizations are taking this as well. But talking about the topic today, the COVID-19 pandemic in a way forced this global unplanned experiment in remote work. We weren't ready for that, but it happened overnight. It happened. Organizations had no choice but to adapt. And few years after pandemic, as given this as an opportunity, so the dust looks like it's settling now. But also, I see a great divide between the organizations that's emerging as well. Some organizations are boldly making statements and calling everybody back to office. And in some of the cities, if you commute to office, you will also see the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday kind of traffic, which kind of indicates, how people are required to come to office. But others are still trying to explore hybrid work or fully remote models as well. And this isn't just about location, let's say coming to office in general in Hyderabad or Bangalore or Gurgaon, etc. It also talks about the culture, the equity, and the very definition of work. Are we able to do from wherever we are is what remote work is all about, right? So today, as part of our conversation, let's see if we can move beyond the basics and ask some of the tough questions. Are the systems that we built in a hurry still serving us? The pandemic related, infrastructure or any other policies that we put in place? Or how do we ensure that fairness and opportunity is equitably available for everyone for that matter, regardless of where they're logging in from home or office or remote places, etc. But I'm glad to have these extreme, panelists here, Mr. Vishal, Mr. Prakash, and Mr. Ajay as well. Let's start asking some questions and understand how these leaders are, shaping their organizations and dealing with the overall shift as well. So I would want to begin with Vishal. You. One of the key elements that I've personally experienced is every time we talk to employees, certain elements about the leadership skills are coming into those conversations. This is how my leader deals with remote work, or this is how our leadership in the organization talks about that. So the question is, what new leadership skills are needed to foster inclusion and prevent the typical us versus them culture between remote and in-office employees?
Thanks for that question, Vivek. And I think it's a one of the most important questions because In case the leadership is not aligned with this particular new way of working kind of thing, everything else, whatever the organization is going to do, is going to fail, right? So there are multiple skills, I think, Vivek, that the leaders have to acquire. I'll just talk about a few of them. So one is being able to create a environment with a psychological safety. What that means is that whatever your uh, environment is basically, right? So first thing that you'll have to do is that you have to talk to your employees saying that whatever happens, this particular mode of you remotely working versus the others working in a hybrid mode or coming to office, for example, is not going to impact your appraisal in any kind of way, right? Whatever opportunities that we are going to give to the employees, the same type of opportunities will be available for you also. It can be stretches in assignments, it can be being part of brainstorming session, whiteboarding sessions kind of thing. Just because you're remote kind of thing will not take away your I mean, your inclusion in that particular meetings and in that stretch assignments. So I think this particular creation of a psychological safety environment, is the most important. Hybrid inclusive communication. A leader should be able to communicate equally between remote employees and in office equally, I would say, using multiple channels. So in case you're only calling in office meetings, for example, right, saying that it's a mandatory to be in office kind of thing, the others might be left out kind of thing. So I think multiple channels has to be set up. Whatever you're doing, whatever you're talking about, all the meetings should be recorded. The recording should be available to the remote employees, for example, right? Uh, Refrain from mentioning that brainstorming happens, because we have a habit of saying that brainstorming happens very well when it's in person kind of thing. So I think as a leader, we should refrain from making these particular statements, because the time you make this particular statement, the remote employees thinks that will not be able to contribute to the brainstorming. I think there are various tools now that allow virtual whiteboarding and everything, and I think those should be used. Leaders who specifically consciously, I think, have to talk about proximity bias awareness, for example. So they should be aware that whatever I'm going to do, for example, I'm not going to let's say prefer FaceTime over the other things, for example, right? So a proximity bias, I mean, any regular day-to-day communication, for example, has to be there, and an anti-bias decision making, that whatever happens, I'm not going to bias towards the people that I see on a regular basis kind of thing. So I think, Vivek, these are the key important leadership skills that every leader should be able to should acquire.
Thank you, Vishal. I think that's a powerful insight. Psychological safety, inclusive communication, and proximity bias. I know not a lot of people talk about that, but I can hear, managing by sight, as in I work with people that are reporting into me and then showing up in office every day, to leading with that trust, I think is can very critical, irrespective of where they are. If you trust them and if you provide the right opportunity, I'm sure everybody will be able to, work great. So
That's
thank you.
great.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Let's move to Prakash. The next question for you. As long as we are talking about, leading with trust and expecting a great performance from employees wherever they are, how should performance be measured in a remote setup to build a trust and avoid micromanagement? I mean, moving beyond the traditional metrics for that matter. What would you want to do that?
Yeah, thank you, Vivek. That is really important question. Especially as more teams move towards hybrid and remote models, the key is shifting our mindset from measuring activity to measuring impact. In remote setup, as you mentioned earlier, trust grows when people are measured on what they deliver, not how many hours they appear online. Okay. So we should define what success looks like, maybe like milestones, review points, communication norms, and then give people space to work. When our expectations are clear, leaders don't need to micromanage and team members feel trusted. For example, if I want to quote with respect to our internal function, I may focus on few aspects like did the auditor identify meaningful control gaps? Did they improve the audit program through smarter testing? Did they build strong rapport with the stakeholders? Did they bring data-driven insights that help refine the scope? So these are a few modern performance indicators that go beyond the checklist. So remote work makes teamwork visible in different ways? Like, is the person responsive? Do they help others unblock issues? Are they contributing to team discussions, sharing templates, or supporting peers during crunch time? So these behaviors build trust across distributed teams. Even things like meeting commitments, anticipating risk, proactive communications, and taking ownership of problems that show maturity and reduce the need for oversight. Even dashboards that track our audit cycle times, review comments, rework rate. So this can help teams improve, but they should not be used as surveillance tools. Okay, so we should use them to spark coaching conversations and not to police people. Okay, so in short, I would like to convey that ultimately performance in a remote audit environment should be measured on clarity, quality, ownership, and impact. Okay, so when leaders focus on these modern metrics, micromanagement naturally disappears because trust grows from visible behavior and delivered outcomes, not from physical proximity. That is what you mentioned earlier. Okay. So thank you and over to you.
Thank you, Prakash. Really appreciate that insight. While I do hear expectations as well as the intent, I think the focus on impact is key. Irrespective of where you're connecting from, are you able to contribute to the outcomes that we deliver as an organization or as a team? I think definitely should have focus beyond everything else as well. So thank you very much for that. Now, in relation to that, when the trust is low or the expectations that Prakash was talking about, are very unclear, it's typically the employee's well-being that suffers. I don't know what I need to deliver, but I'm being measured on certain metrics that I may or may not have direct control over. So let's go to Ajay now. Ajay, especially, I believe you were leading a large team as the world went down to lockdown, right? The blurring of that work and home was immediate, intense, and caught us by the surprise. So the question is, in the Indian context of this blurred work-home lines, let's say, I don't know where my work starts and where my work ends when I'm at home. What effective strategies have you seen companies use to address these employee burnouts and promote the mental well-being in remote models? How are we taking care of those elements for employees?
So, if I'll talk about the Indian context, especially to the manufacturing setups, I think that is where the whole context of this work and home things has been evolved. And I think during COVID, though there was exigencies where from manufacturing setup it was working, but half of the population were not being there in the offices, and alignment was really a tough time because in a manufacturing setup when you need a people across in the decision making process, even a process like production planning person is needed for how to plan it for the executions, right? So that alignment, how it is to be there, which is always be prompting for a work-life balance. Lot of issues or like it is related to a social support like systems where the infrastructures were down, movement of people become restricted. So how to, in spite of this lack of support system, how you are really supporting or working with the atmosphere where deliverables are being there, and that was more than 100% because when it comes to exigencies where we are dealing with life-saving drugs or you are dealing with the essentials material, then it was like it is we are putting your 100%, more than 100%, and at the same time you have to take care of total burnout of people, right? How they are really supporting the system. So apart from the employees struggle to or disconnect to the work, uh, especially in the heavy or unorganized way of working, I think what we have done it that we practically people looking across the board. I think right from the top management to the senior management to junior management, people are always be hand holding each other. I think that is where we managed to see the people are doing the specific challenges they are working on it, and realignment of the job descriptions. I think that is what where we have focused more on that. The tough time was at how to skill people, but we have is skilled enough people to redescribe their job description itself on the basis of curiosity and the people how they have involved into the system and in-person interactions. I think that is what has people have came out from the loneliness and those struggles. I think that is where the whole aspect of the company culture actually we had molded across to avoid the burnout of the things. Like a lot of people used to talk about unfair treatments, the lack of recognition, and those aspects were there. So we were able to do that once, and I think with a set clear of boundaries, limitations, and those aspects are with the sustainable work methodology. I think those things were there to for us to support in the whole system. That what I can contribute on that. Yeah.
Thank you, Ajay. Some of the excellent points that we are all, taking lessons away from as well. Especially, I heard social support and systemic support as well. And when we do that proactively, don't wait for problems, but is there anything that we can do as management, as leaders to ensure that we take care of our employees? I think that's what separates good intentions from the real impact as well. So thank you for sharing your insights on that one. And now, thinking about that support, it's never been crucial, especially when people join the organization, when they start their journey as a new one. And by the way, I do see quite a few people join our webinar right now. So thank you very much for following us. And, you can join this conversation, by the way. If you have any questions, feel free to share them in the chat. And when we have an opportunity, I'll see if I can also pick up questions from you, and if any of our panelists will be able to provide more insights from their experience and background as well. So just a quick reminder for you there. So going back to our conversation, thinking about that support that we are referring to, it may be different for an existing employee versus somebody who's starting as a new employee in a particular organization. So Vishal, back to you. If I can seek some insights into what are the biggest challenges and best practices for successfully onboarding and mentoring new employees in a remote first environment where they don't have an opportunity to shake hands and then get the onboarding or orientation in a conference room? How do we do that?
So Vivek, I think whatever Prakash and Ajay mentioned, I mean, the problems that existing employees will face, I think the problems are exponential for people that have joined newly, right? The biggest problem is building relationships. I mean, at least the existing employees, for example, have known the managers, for example, maybe they have met them somewhere, for example. So relationship is already built. And once a relationship is built, for example, you don't forget a relationship because you're moving remotely kind of thing, right? But especially for new members that have joined, for example, building that relationship with the managers or with the peers and with the HR, with the other support functions, for example, is extremely difficult. Second, they do not know whom to go to support for example, in case they face a problem, right? There might be some. Now here, the personality of the new member also might come into picture. There are some people, for example, that know how to navigate the system, know how to reach the right people for the right support. But there might be some people, for example, which are not so extrovert kind of thing, and they might be stuck with the problem and will not be able to reach out to anyone for support. And eventually that would impact their performance or impact the probation period, for example, right? So that's important thing. Second, for example, when it happens in office, for example, there's a member, for example, having a problem. You take him to a meeting room, you do some quick whiteboarding and everything, you explain him over the shoulder, you look at what he's doing, for example, and you understand whether he's stuck or he's able to continue with this work kind of thing, right? But that does not happen for remotely working people. So that is a problem. So again, it's not a problem only for the employees, it's a problem for the organization, the managers as well, right? Now, the best practices, if I'm talking about one thing for sure, that it has to be a structured onboarding plan. Because when it's in office, for example, even if the onboarding plan is not that structured, for example, things still fall in place because we are seeing each other. I'm seeing that the person is sitting idle, for example, not doing anything. So I can ask him whether you have completed the learning from the whatever the learning had to be completed, have you completed? But when it comes to remote, you cannot do those checkpoints again and again, right? So a structured onboarding plan is necessary. Pairing new employees with dedicated mentors. And in this case, I will suggest that pairing new employees with someone who is the mentor who is also remotely working, right? Uh, Maybe that might help in some way or the other, right? Having this, we already are talking about fun Fridays and everything. Having this frequent fun Fridays and everything when onboarding, when new people are onboarded, especially increasing the frequency of those particular virtual connect events and everything, that will be important. And then leveraging a lot of collaborative tools. So even if you're talking about training, if you're talking about whiteboarding, for example, then using the best of those tools, for example, to make sure that the other person also understands what is being communicated. I think this will help the employees to ramp up faster and still uh, have a feeling that they are part of the team. So I think that is pretty much Vivek, that a leader can do, and also the employees.
Wonderful. Thank you, Vishal. I'm in L&D myself, so I can definitely relate to a lot of aspects that you're talking about. I emphasize more on structured onboarding to ensure that all the tools are available and what's the best way to get them up to speed. And as you rightly said, people hesitate sometimes to reach out because it's not as simple as walking to a desk and saying hello, but it's primarily trying to understand whether another team member is available. Do they show up green on one of the messaging apps that you typically
Yeah.
use? And you're also at the mercy of people whether or not they respond, if they're in meetings or if they step away from their desk and then they are on a break, let's say. It kind of builds that anxiety as well. So I completely understand.
Right.
But the key word I think I'm trying to arrive at is probably the intent for you to help them, the intent for you to make it comfortable and ensure that they succeed, setting up them for success, right? So that's the word that can really probably help
Very true.
us connect on that one. So appreciate that. Now, in relation to that, let's say post onboarding, another major concern that we typically hear is junior employees tend to worry that they will be forgotten if they are not in the office. Again, the proximity bias or other elements that we are talking about. If I don't say hello, if I don't have an opportunity to ask a question live and then learn, etc. So Prakash, if we can come to you next, how can junior employees maintain that career growth and visibility when they have less in-person time with their people managers or leadership in comparison to their in-office colleagues who report to office, let's say Monday to Friday or 3 days a week, etc.? How can they maintain their career growth and visibility?
Yeah, thank you, Vivek. See, your question is very much relevant and of real concern in hybrid and distributed teams. But I feel junior employees can maintain a strong career visibility with the right intentional habits. Okay, so let me offer a few practical strategies. The number one is they have to be deliberately visible through their work, not just their presence. In a remote or hybrid setup, outcomes matter more than hours seen. So
Yeah.
clear documentation, timely updates, and proactive communication, which helps leaders see the value the junior employees are adding even when they are not physically present. Second, they should be growth for conversations. I mean, they should not wait for incidental, all-way interactions. They should
Yeah.
set up a short, structured check-ins with the reporting managers monthly or quarterly to discuss progress, learning goals, and to obtain constructive feedback. Even leaders appreciate employees who take charge of their development. Number three, use digital platforms to showcase their contribution. This could be through consigns, status updates, or sharing insights after trainings, or participating actively in virtual forums or team channels. So these touch points substitute for the visibility they would normally get in office corridors. Number four is volunteer for cross-functional or high-impact tasks. They should be able to raise their hand for stretch projects, pilot initiatives, or process improvements which provide them exposure to a wider set of leaders, even if done remotely. And number five, build micro relationship. See, visibility does not come always from big interactions. Maybe a quick appreciation message, a follow after a meeting, or asking advice from senior colleagues. Even this builds familiarity and trust over time. And lastly, the number 6 point I can say, be intentional about developing a personal brand. See, whether it is being known for a quality, reliability, curiosity, or problem solving, the consistency in how they operate make leaders remember them, independent of location. So overall, in short, I would like to convey is visibility today is less about being physically seen and more about being consistently valuable, communicative, and proactive. So junior employees who invest in these behaviors can grow just as fast, if not faster, than their in-office peers. Thank you, and over to you, Vivek.
Wonderful, Prakash. Thank you very much. When you are speaking, if I take notes, it's as good as an instruction manual for me to print a poster out of it and then see if I can distribute to some of the employees as well. Wonderful, I think.
Thank you.
Very actionable advice, in fact, which will help both managers and employees. How do you give space as a leader or as a manager for remote employees? And a lot of rituals that we can, inculcate as a habit, right? It's not just something that you do depending on what is asked of you, but proactively every week, can you meet one new person or can you make a new connection? Can you ensure that you check in or seek feedback proactively? As you rightly say, don't wait for incidents to happen, but doesn't hurt to ping a colleague or a manager and then say, how did I do this week? Is there anything that you observed, or is there anything that I can learn from these experiences? I think that's a wonderful advice for us to create that visibility based on outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, let's widen the lens from individuals to a little bit of organization as well. Ajay, we are coming to you. We know remote work isn't free. It definitely shifts costs and relies on infrastructure that not everyone has equal access to. My internet connectivity may not be incomparable with office or another's internet connectivity or power supplies. And, is this where the core issue of equality comes in? So based on your experience, the question is, reflecting on these last few years, let's say, we know that the cost for an employee and access to technology vary greatly. It's not the same for everybody. It's not a level playing field, right? What is one specific policy you have seen successfully address this inequality beyond one-time allowances? We've all seen organizations sponsoring 10,000 rupees to get a desk and a chair, and maybe another 5,000 rupees to get a decent modem or a UPS. But beyond those one-time allowances, are there any policies, any specific initiatives that you can think of that addressed this inequality?
Sure enough. I think the basic things were to adhere to on this is three parameters which always we see in our process, or like a people process in the technology, right? These three things go hand in hand. When we talk about people, then you have to look into all the aspects from the soft skill to the hard skills, and the people working from workplace and working from the home remotely. And then it comes to a process like what we have seen in our manufacturing setups, like what areas we have differentiated, like people who are in a support functions is being given a lighter weightage of whether they can be really taken care of from the remote, because as you know, when we started this activities and the shift was there from today in the world, we have gone in more on the real-time working than the remote working, right? So industries are coming more than 100% people should attend in the offices. So still we have given more focus on the people who are in the softer skills, or people who are having not really related to the direct in the operations. They can work on the remote basis, and there are certain evaluation factors has been considered when we do the evaluation of people on all the parameters. I think we are really a little bit of the softers on the setup of complete analysis of the people, that how the outcomes are coming into it, whether rather than um, tracking it down the say 6 hour or 8 hours of work, is it the outcome is really coming it out or not? That is important for us, and that is where the performance reviews mechanism being seen by us on the allowing into the targeted interventions and looking into the actual basis how these outcomes are coming. And this is there are a lot of mechanism to get intervention and get connected on the people to have this consistent use of technology, the process benchmarking. I think what we had gone into that how to benchmark in the standard and non-standards. I think those are the area we have really gone into it. There are various dashboards which we look into it to adhere to the all the compliances, the policies, which is really being transformed into the actions, and those are really coming into our decision making processes. I think that is where I think you can have a leverage to the given to the people, that okay, instead of a strict ruler master, you are really supporting through the technology, and the lot of aspects are being given the lenient of the aspect of like some people who are working from the remote areas where the connectivity is an issue. So we have a softer skills and looking into that, what are the way they can at least cope up with the work in an absolute manner where they are delivering to more than 100%. I think that is where we are considering in our manufacturing process.
Thank you, Ajay. Thank you. And sometimes I know it's fascinating to understand how each industry has to approach a certain problem, right? IT industry, for example, people who work on computers, let's say, internet connection and power supply is probably all you need for you to get started and then do a lot of your deliverables and outcomes. But people who work on heavy machinery and then they have to commute to industries like pharma or manufacturing, let's say, I'm sure there are other challenges. And thank you for highlighting that process and softer skills that can be considered as opportunities that you can additionally provide, not just finance support for internet and desks, etc. So thank you, Ajay, for that. Now let's touch upon something which is considered as initiative. Some organizations believe that this is a great initiative, and some others believe that this is not. But the reason why I come here is people are commuting to office and then looking forward to in-person connections, etc. But at the same time, there are also virtual employees looking forward to or trading these fun Fridays and virtual fun times, etc. So Vishal, I would be curious to learn from you. And we have seen virtual happy hours fizzle out very quickly. First two calls are definitely high energy, and maybe third call onwards, sometimes you tend to think about, is there an excuse that I can give to not be on that call occasionally? But what is one specific, perhaps unconventional initiative that you have implemented that successfully built genuine connection, a social connection among remote employees, and why do you think it worked? Is there anything that we can learn from that experience?
So Vivek, I'll not say completely unconventional or something, but there were two things that worked in IMOCA. One was a stepathon. I think multiple organizations are doing it. So, and that's the reason I said that there's nothing unconventional about it. But stepathon really works because I saw team members building strategies, planning, executing, uh, checking out what is others' plans. For example, I mean, what are the other team members doing? Are they walking enough? Should I, if I need to overtake that particular team, for example, so what is the strategy that I have to build? And all this particular strategy and everything was being done remotely, right? So members were walking basically at different places, different locations throughout the globe. But at the same time, the team bonding really happened. So I think Stepathon really, really worked. Okay, so that is one thing. The second thing, again, as you said, Fun Friday, for example. So Fun Friday, what we did is, again, we collected childhood photos. Um some people even gave their picture after just after birth, kind of a thing, right? And then so when we meet people physically, we understand from the childhood photos that this person would resemble this photo, kind of thing, right? But the fun part was that identifying people that are remotely working based on the photos, right? And that particular, the person only because of the webcams and everything during certain meetings, or once in a while, for example, this person has come to office, kind of thing, right? So that particular Fun Friday event that we did to identify using childhood photos, it really worked. I mean, people started checking that. I mean, this person who is remotely working, for example, what is it? How is the difference between his looks and everything for the last few years, kind of thing? Uh, there are a lot of changes and everything that are happening, kind of thing. So I think that particular event also really worked well, Vivek, for us. Again, as I said, nothing unconventional, but I think it's every now and then you can do such kind of activities and get the bonding up to the mark, I guess.
I agree. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that genuinely, Vishal. And we've done that in our organization too, and I can vouch for that because from in a global competition of how many steps can somebody take in a given month. Back in 21, I think I won Fitbit Versa 3. Globally, I stood
Oh,
second. So I can definitely vouch for that, and we took that as a real competition to see if we can report numbers every day and who's leading, how the leaderboard is changing the names, etc. And interesting about the childhood photo activity as well. That's great if people are able to identify resemblances between childhood photos and real people remotely. Because one of the biggest surprises we've always had when meeting people for the first time after working for a few months or few years remotely was, I didn't know you were this tall, or I was looking at a different height estimation for you in front of your camera all the time. But it's a surprise, and then it's a
exactly.
good connection for that matter as well. So thank you. Now, while authenticity always wins over forced fun, let's talk about authenticity in another context. Even with great social events and fun activities like that, when we are working remotely, the pressure to be always on is real in our work culture. What if my manager pings me and if I don't respond immediately? Or should I have the green status or available status all the time, just in case my team member needs me or my manager needs me, etc. So Prakash, will come to you. This is a topic that is gaining traction globally, but is complex in Indian context as well. The given the mentality and the overall hard work related aspects like that. Given our demanding work cultures these days, should companies establish a right to disconnect kind of policy to protect employees' personal time from constant on-call expectations and experiences as well?
Yeah, thank you, Vivek. I feel this is very much most relevant question in today's Indian corporate environment because we do operate in a culture where responsiveness is often equated with commitment. But the reality is, constantly being on call is not sustainable and it does not actually make teams more productive. In my views, yes, the companies should move towards a right to disconnect mindset, even if the policy starts small. When employees, especially younger generation, younger professionals, that is Generation Z, have genuine downtime, they return with better judgment, sharper thinking, and more creativity. And in the roles like internal audit, where we assess risk, interpret data, and write critical reports, the clarity of mind directly affects quality. So in Indians work, realities mean we cannot just cut and copy paste European laws, but we can create a simple guard rails like no messages after certain hour unless truly urgent, clear escalation paths, so not everyone feels obligated to respond. Rotational on-call schedules instead of 24/7 expectations. So these are practical and still respectful of business needs. Even the best policy fails if the managers continue sending midnight emails or expecting instant replies on weekends. Okay, I've seen teams completely transform when leaders model healthy boundaries, like scheduling emails for the next morning or calling out people who consistently work late, so workload can be rebalanced. When employees feel they can switch off without being judged, they actually engage more deeply during work hours. That leads to lower burnout, better morale, and higher retention, especially for Generation Z and millennial employees. So, a right to discount policy signals that the company values professionalism over presentism, outcomes over hours, and as you mentioned earlier, a long-term well-being over short-term urgency. So, in short, I would like to convey that yes, I believe India needs this shift, not just as a policy, but as a cultural evolution. It is about creating an environment where people can be fully present at work because they are allowed to be fully absent after work. Okay. So thank you and over to you, Vivek.
Thank you, Prakash. I completely agree. A policy in place definitely makes it easy for us to, in a way, implement and roll out that. But it can also be the mindset or the approach of a manager and a leader as well. I mean, all of us are human beings, all of us have families. So it's not fair to expect somebody to be online 24/7 and respond to immediately. Exceptions are always there. If there is something that is broken and it can't wait till morning, I know we can always involve them occasionally, but that should not be a standard expectation 24/7 to say, I want you to respond anytime I ping. So thank you. Appreciate that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Now, we have a couple of questions in the chat as well, and we have about 3 to 4 minutes for us to close. See if we are able to quickly answer some of these questions. Vishal, let me redirect the first one to you. Remote work can make grievances harder to express. How can companies build safe, confidential channels for remote employees to raise concerns without fear of being ignored?
Yeah, so Vivek, I think the question is very relevant because what happens in an office is if you have a grievance or something, you pull the manager into a meeting room or the HR into a meeting room, and the discussion happens, and everything is maybe not sorted, but at least you're heard, right? Remotely, that's a challenge because you do not know when you're getting on the call, for example, is anyone listening to that particular call kind of thing. So you cannot freely express that particular grievance, right? Of course, I mean, we know when the call is being recorded and everything, but you never know when the call is being overheard, for example, right? So those concerns are always there. So I think there are multiple channels that can be possible, not verbal channels, for example, but maybe textual channels, for example. So maybe a particular anonymous survey, for example. Of course, the HR, the managers, the leadership, the whole organization has to give a confidence that whatever surveys are being created, for example, are really anonymous kind of thing. And maybe now with GenAI, for example, you can also do one more thing that whatever the person responds to, for example, can be scrambled in a way that does not specifically identify that this is the style of the person, because every person has its own style of writing, for example. So in case you give this particular GenAI based capabilities, wherein whatever you write, for example, is toned in a way that it does not trigger to a particular individual, for example, I think those are the possibilities that an organization can think about.
Appreciate. Thank you, Vishal. Anonymity, I think, goes a long way. And Tushar is the one asking this question. So thank you, Tushar, for bringing that up. And a lot of organizations also typically continue to have hotlines. a neutral third-party vendor that can help you to take requests and hear you out. At Pega, for example, of course, we have a hotline, but we also have a EAP program, as we call it, Employee Assistance Program. And this is a third-party service where you can chat about anything that you want to. Not just an employee, but even employees' family members are allowed as well. Let that be a domestic violence, which is not office related and the work related, but you need somebody to talk to. As a neutral party, they will hear you out and they will redirect you to certain things that can really help you. So providing assistance and assurance and some support and some direction can really help us as well. So those continue to be some of the options that can help us. And
Vivek, I'll just add on this. So the thing is, so we had recently a POSH committee meetings and everything, right? I mean, the awareness and everything. So whoever thinks that a POSH can be only applicable when it's in physical presence, for example. So we have cleared out that, for example, even if it's remotely, for example, when you're doing a remote call and something objectionable happens, for example, you can still go to the POSH committee and complain about it. So that is one additional thing that also we have done at IMUCOM.
Yeah, wonderful. And it's part of that overall framework, but it explicitly highlighting also helps to ensure that people do not ignore or people do not assume that it doesn't apply to anybody who's not physically working in office. Thank you. We have a question from Mahi. As AI and automation increasingly support remote work, could certain roles become more fragmented or transactional? How should organizations protect meaningful employee engagement? Anybody who wants to take Prakash or Ajay, would you be interested to take a dig at this question? And I can share my insight as well. I think AI is definitely going to have an impact on how we work, whether we like it or not. It's already out there, and then we are seeing some significant shift in how we interact with these processes and systems, and how our productivity is being impacted as well. So whether or not certain roles become more fragmented or transactional, I think the answer is yes. And it's probably a matter of time. Is that going to change over the next 6 months, or is it going to take 6 years? Is something that we don't know. But there will definitely be some impact on some of the roles that we currently know as they are. But that doesn't necessarily mean employees being asked to leave or overall reduction in force. But if employees get assistance from GenAI to do what they do right now manually, slightly better, slightly quicker, they might be able to focus on other elements as well. They might be able to pick up more work, make an impact in other regions as well. So organizations should be very cognizant about this change. And we do at Pega right now provide a lot of learning opportunities for upskilling and reskilling as well. If you're able to save 1 hour every day because you have access to Copilot and Google Gemini and other tools, etc., can I interest you in some other area that you can get comfortable with? Which means in addition to the 5 or 7 skills that you are very good at, can you add a couple more skills and then be future ready as well? So that's how we try to, in a way, empower and then enable employees to ensure that we try to, look into that future and see how the impact of AI can be leveraged in the right direction and not impacted in a negative way for us to talk about loss of jobs, etc. One last question in the chat.
Just to add, I think Vivek, what you're saying it, I think I'll echo the word what you're saying it. Either AI or technology is here to support us in the system, because though our basic processes may get changed, people will see that basic things people are afraid of, like hearing that 20,000, 40,000 people are getting retrenched. But one thing is very common, that the jobs are getting reskilled and processes are being given more focused area. So I think individual has to do some reskilling of work, and I think in future the technology is there to support us to enhance our career.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ajay, for that insight. It really helps us to put that in perspective and digest what's happening in the real world with the right intent. We don't want to get scared and then worried about all those transactional elements as well. Thank you. So the last question for us for today perhaps is from Neha. We received this in the chat. how can organizations maintain a strong learning culture remotely, especially in roles that traditionally relied on shadowing, peer learning, or hands-on exposure? I would like to provide my perspective. I've been with learning and development for more than 2 decades, so I've been experimenting and then doing certain things which can address this. But Prakash, Vishal, and Ajay, if you would like to add your response after that, you are definitely welcome.
Yeah, even in my, of course, sorry, please carry on.
Sure. So certain things that really are helping us is, of course, virtual learning. And I'm talking about the basic virtual learning that we currently do is all the in-person modules, all the in-person on-the-job related experiences. Can we do that on Zoom or WebEx or Teams, etc.? So a true translation of in-person into a virtual environment, that's definitely there. That's always an option. Two, we provide access to certain portals with 100% coverage and licenses to say you can explore and learn whatever you think is appropriate for you. And platforms like Udemy or platforms like Coursera, for example, not only they have e-learning modules for you to watch videos and learn, like a typical YouTube, e-learning modules, but most of them are right now coming with sandbox environments built into the platform. Whatever you learn technically, for example, you have an option to immediately practice that on the same platform within the same browser window as well. So the on the job learning or job shadowing and peer learning is in a way available right now virtually too. So you can follow the instructions and then practice whatever you learn. So that's another form of learning. The third form of learning that I am very excited about right now that we have seen good results is there is also role play based learning that's available with the advent of Gen AI. For example, when we talk about how do you provide feedback to an employee, and this is a manager population, let's say, how giving them a video or giving them an instruction sheet and then say, these are the tips that I want you to follow to provide feedback is one way to go. But there is a lot of difference between knowing and doing. I know how to do it, but I may not know how to do it in the real world, let's say. It doesn't come out the same way that I think I will be able to implement as part of that conversation. So within these learning modules, we are building these role play kind of dialogue modules where I can start with the prompt and then say, I am a manager and you are going to be an employee. This is the context that we are practicing and let's start. And using my voice, I'm able to work with the computer and the computer responds instantly like an employee using the profile that we set and then say, can you be a difficult employee? Can you be a very good employee? Or can you be a indifferent employee, etc. So it's kind of helping us to practice. And then that is something which is really closing the gap of not just being virtual training, but mimicking the experience of real world in-person kind of experiences virtually. So that's what I've been trying and it's working great. But I know, Prakash, you have a response that you would like to share.
No, I want to add on the similar lines because the question was mentioned as shadowing, okay, or peer learning. So usually, as I mentioned, the outcomes, whatever we get, assuming the reporting manager or somebody has resigned, now hands-on experience should happen. So the reporting manager should be able to see, suppose if some activity has been given to the particular person who is shadowing, how the person is able to do so, what is the outcome? So I think if they're able to measure, then that will be the success for the shadowing work as part of learning.
Wonderful. Thank you, Prakash. Thank you. I agree with that. We are at the end of our time. To our panelists, Vishal, Prakash, and Ajay, the depth and honesty of your insights has been definitely incredibly valuable. So thank you very much. We have been talking about leading with trust, designing for equality, the intention and the impact that we touched upon multiple times. All of that takes, it takes effort for us to build that thriving culture in this new era of work. So a huge thank you for sharing your time and expertise with us. And to our wonderful audience, thank you for your time. Thank you for your engagement and thoughtful questions in the chat. We hope you are leaving with new perspectives to carry into your own organizations, the way that you work, the way that you interact with your colleagues. And this is Vivek again. With that, let me pass it back to our host, Faisal.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Vivek, for skillfully steering the discussion and ensuring a seamless flow of ideas and excellent engagement. We truly appreciate your dedication and commendable moderation. Thank you to our esteemed panelists. Your thoughtful perspectives help the audience reflect on the realities of remote work and the changing needs of employees across different environments. The examples and experiences you shared made the conversation more meaningful and relatable for everyone present. For those eager to learn and grow, the recording of today's session is available on our YouTube link shared in the chat window. Thank you to all our participants for being part of the session. Your presence made the discussion even more meaningful. We look forward to welcoming you to our next session on the topic AI in finance from automation to intelligent forecasting on December 16, 2025. With that, we conclude today's webinar. Thank you for being part of this journey. Take care and farewell for now. Thank you, dear speakers, once again. It's been a real pleasure having you with us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very
Vivek.
much.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everyone.
Vishal. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Raj.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone. Have a great rest of the day. Take care. See you in another webinar soon. Yeah. Bye.
Yeah, bye.
Okay.